In the City of London on February the 26th, 1995, one of the greatest financial disasters of the century was announced to an astonished world. Britain's oldest merchant banks had collapsed with debts of almost £1 billion. How could Barings Bank, founded in 1762 and counting the Queen among its customers, possibly go bust? As anxious staff arrived at headquarters to hear their fate, the rest of the city tried to digest the significance of it all, and a chill of panic spread through its account holders.
In 1995, the financial world was rocked by an unprecedented scandal. Britain's oldest merchant bank, Barings, had collapsed overnight. For 233 years, Barings had stood as a pillar of British banking, counting the Queen among its clients. But in just a few weeks, one man brought it crashing down. His name was Nick Leeson. A working-class kid from Watford who became the most notorious rogue trader in history. Through unauthorised trades, he lost £827 million, equivalent to $1.4 billion. It wasn't just money that vanished. Hundreds of jobs disappeared, and the financial world was forever changed. This is the story of ambition, deception, and the devastating consequences when one man's gamble went catastrophically wrong. Nicholas William Leeson was born on February 25, 1967, in Watford, Hertfordshire. The son of a plasterer father and nurse mother, he grew up on a council estate with modest means.
My mum had always instilled an ambition in me from an early age to achieve at school, to achieve at senior school, and then to achieve in life. And I think the things that she was very much focused on were me having a better life than she had. You know, my upbringing was very, very working class, and money was always in short supply.
There was nothing in his early life to suggest he would one day shake the foundations of global finance. He attended the local Palmerton School in Garston, where he showed no exceptional academic talent. In 1985, Leeson finished school with 6 O-levels and 2 A-levels, respectable but unremarkable results. His path to banking began not in the prestigious halls of Oxford or Cambridge, but as a clerk at Coutts Bank. At Coutts, Leeson's job was simple: processing paper checks and managing client accounts. It was mundane work, but it gave him his first glimpse into the world of high finance. In 1987, hungry for advancement, he moved to Morgan Stanley's back office. Here he learned the mechanics of futures and options trading, complex financial instruments that would later become his downfall. What Leeson lacked in formal education, he made up with ambition, confidence, and charm. These qualities would soon catch the attention of Barings Bank. In 1989, at just 22 years old, Nick Leeson joined Barings Bank, an institute older than the United States itself. His starting salary was a modest £12,000 a year, but he was determined to climb the ranks.
The trading floor is amazingly exciting. People are competing against each other in a gladiatorial sort of environment where, one person wins and another person loses, and you're trying to prove that you're the best.
We've got problems in our Jakarta office. We need someone to go out there, sort things out. I thought that someone might be Nick Leeson.
His first break came with an assignment to Jakarta, Indonesia. Tasked with sorting out £100 million in unpaid share certificates, Leeson impressed his superiors with his efficiency and problem-solving skills. In 1992, Barings made a fateful decision. They would open a futures and options office in Singapore, and they wanted Leeson to run it. At just 25 years old, Leeson was appointed General Manager of Barings Operations on the Singapore International Monetary Exchange. Crucially, he was given an unusual dual role, managing both the trading floor and the back office that processed the paperwork. This was like making someone both the player and the referee. It was a fundamental breach of the checks and balances that normally prevent fraud.
Allowing Leeson to do that is one of the most obviously stupid things you could do. It breaks rule number 1 of financial control. It meant that at the end of each day, Leeson could value his own positions and control the bank accounts, and there was nobody checking on what he was doing, and it meant that he had an enormous amount of freedom.
In 1993, an internal memo sent between senior staff warned, "We are in danger of setting up a system which could prove disastrous."
Initially, Leeson's trading appeared brilliant. In his first year in Singapore, he reported profits of £10 million, a staggering 10% of Barings' total annual profit.
Pretty rapidly, he built up a reputation as being one of the better traders on the floor, even one of the best. He was very forceful, he could always get you a good price, and customers came to like him. And then over time, because he seemed to be so good at that business, he was given more leeway to trade for himself, to trade for Barings.
The bank rewarded him handsomely, a £130,000 bonus on top of his £50,000 a year salary. Back in London, Barings executives celebrated their star trader in the East.
If you have any success in any business, it's the most wonderful feeling. People are trying to transact as much as they possibly can, so it becomes an addictive quality that your body starts to hunger for because you're so used to it happening.
But beneath the surface of success, something very different was happening. Nick Leeson was harbouring a dangerous secret. It began with an error account, number 88888, a standard tool used to temporarily hold mistakes in trading. But in Leeson's hands, this account would become something far more sinister. According to Leeson, it started innocently enough. A subordinate had mistakenly sold future contracts instead of buying them, resulting in a £20,000 loss. Rather than reporting the error and risk damaging his perfect reputation, Leeson hid it in the 88888 account. It was the first step down a slippery slope.
It wasn't a case of being calculated and clear about what you were doing. This was something that I'd witnessed on a daily basis working in Barings. How many times had people put something into an error account, held it overnight or for a week, and then unwound it? Numerous. For me, that should have been a huge step to do that. But it wasn't. It was a baby step because I'd seen everybody do it during my time in the organisation.
I know that's what he's always said about what happened, but the facts are that absolutely from the outset, he created a situation in which transactions could be hidden. Now, he then says that was all about covering up for mistakes junior people made. Well, I'm not sure about that.
Soon, Leeson was using the account to hide his own trading losses, and by the end of 1992, the hidden losses exceeded £2 million.
Leeson wanted to appear to be a star trader, and the way that you appear to be a star trader is to make money, and the easiest way to make money is to make it up.
As the losses mounted, Leeson adopted a dangerous strategy known as doubling. Every time he lost money, he would bet twice as much to try to win it back. It was a classic gambler's fallacy.
He was doubling up and doubling up and doubling up. And so over those months, you went from tens of millions to high hundreds of millions as each bet doubled. So an astonishing sort of acceleration to failure over relatively few months.
My only focus was surviving for another day, trying to get back to a situation where there were no losses and start again. And you gain this strange sort of confidence that you will be able to unwind it.
The belief that a losing streak must eventually turn around. But in reality, it only exposed him to ever greater risks. By the late 1993, the secret account had ballooned to a £23 million in losses. and by the end of 1994, an astonishing £208 million in losses.
You do genuinely wake up, or you sit there for every minute of every day and you expect somebody to knock on the door, or you expect somebody to pick up the phone and ask a difficult question. You expect somebody to look at the accounts and interrogate it and see that there are holes in the balance sheet.
All while Leeson maintained his facade of Barings' golden boy. The pressure to maintain this double life was immense. Each morning he would arrive at the office before anyone else to falsify reports. Each night he would leave last, desperately trying to trade his way out of the hole.
I think he wanted and liked being seen as a star trader. He'd come from the back office, he'd come from quite humble circumstances, and he'd managed to make something of himself, and he didn't want to just go back to where he'd come from.
People think that it was a real complex process in terms of achieving the funding that we required from London. It was a very, very simple process. One of the girls who worked for me in the office, she would come in first thing, 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, open up the Citibank account, see how overdrawn we were, and request that sum of money from London. So if we were 50 million overdrawn, she would request 50 million. All of them were nonsensical. There was not one of them that would stand up to any investigation.
The psychological toll was enormous, but the alternative, admitting his deception, seemed impossible. His reputation, career, and freedom all hung in the balance. Then came the event that would bring everything crashing down. A natural disaster on the other side of the Pacific Ocean.
An earthquake so strong it literally shifted the Earth's axis by about 25 centimeters.
On the 17th of January 1995, the Great Hanshin earthquake struck Kobe, Japan. Over 6,000 people lost their lives in one of Japan's worst natural disasters. As the human tragedy unfolded, financial markets reacted violently. The Nikkei stock average plunged and Asian markets went into freefall. Leeson had placed a massive bet that the Japanese market would remain stable overnight. The earthquake shattered that bet, and with it, any hope of hiding his losses. Desperate to recover, Leeson made one final, reckless gamble. He bet everything on the Japanese market quickly bouncing back.
The volume of trading coming through Singapore is increasing. The trades are getting bigger. The market's moving more drastically. The market's falling from 40,000 down to 18,000. So any position that you're holding is really accelerated in terms of the loss that it's making. And I'm holding bigger and bigger positions. So it's just getting more and more crazy.
But the recovery never came. Instead, his losses accelerated at a terrifying pace. And on the 23rd of February 1995, Leeson left a simple note saying, "I'm sorry," and he fled Singapore with his wife. Behind him, he left financial chaos. Back in London, Barings executives were just discovering the full extent of the disaster. The losses had reached a staggering £827 million, twice the bank's available trading capital.
Peter Barings has gone on TV and said there's been a conspiracy. They've lost 800 million quid.
My losses were nowhere near that. It was more like 300.
Hello, but Barings didn't do anything Friday, did they? So that now the word's out and the market's crashed.
Bloody idiots.
But listen, mate, you got no friends here now, so just get the fuck out of Asia, get back to London, Australia, anywhere. Just get the fuck out.
And on the 26th of February 1995, after a failed bailout attempt, Barings Bank declared insolvency. The 233-year-old institution had been destroyed by a single trader. Meanwhile, Leeson was on the run. His face was on newspaper front pages worldwide as authorities launched a global manhunt. His freedom lasted mere days. On the 2nd of March 1995, German police arrested Leeson at Frankfurt Airport. The man had gambled with billions, was now facing justice, and the financial world was left to pick up the pieces of his deception.
Crisis talks have been going on all day at the Bank of England to work out a deal to save Britain's oldest merchant bank.
In the aftermath of the collapse, Dutch bank ING purchased Barings for the symbolic sum of £1. A centuries-old financial institution had been reduced to pocket change. Hundreds of Barings employees lost their jobs. Many had no idea of the secret trading that had destroyed their careers. In December 1995, Leeson faced trial in Singapore. He pleaded guilty to 2 charges of deceiving bank auditors and cheating the Singapore exchange. The judge sentenced him to 6.5 years in Singapore's notorious Changi prison. It was less than the maximum possible sentence, but still a harsh fall for the former trading star. Prison life was a stark contrast to Leeson's former luxury lifestyle. But worse news was to come. While incarcerated, Leeson was diagnosed with colon cancer. Doctors initially gave him a bleak prognosis. Meanwhile, the Barings collapse triggered a regulatory earthquake in the financial world. Authorities scrambled to prevent similar disasters, and new rules were mandated: stricter separation between trading and back office functions. Risk management became the new watchword in banking. A Bank of England investigation concluded that serious failures of controls and managerial confusion had enabled the disaster. The entire financial industry was forced to re-examine its practices. And in July 1999, after serving just over 4 years, Nick Leeson was released from prison. Against the odds, he had survived both incarceration and cancer. His return to Britain made headlines worldwide. The notorious rogue trader was now also a cancer survivor with a story to tell. Leeson's autobiography, The Rogue Trader, became an international bestseller. In 1999, it was adapted into a film starring Ian McGregor and Anna Frale. And in a remarkable twist, Leeson reinvented himself as a speaker on risk management. The man who had broken every rule now advises companies on how to prevent similar disasters. And in 2003, he completed a psychology degree at Middlesex University. Education had came late, but it marked another step in his rehabilitation. And most recently, Leeson has worked as a private investigator specializing in financial misconduct. The poacher had turned gamekeeper. And when asked about his past, Leeson has expressed remorse. "I was wrong," he has said. "I can't change that, but I can try to help others avoid similar mistakes." 3 decades after the Barings collapse, Nick Leeson's legacy lives on in the financial world. Every compliance officer, every risk management system exists partly because of what he did. Today's financial institutions spend billions on compliance and risk management, but the human element, ambition, fear, and the temptation to cover up mistakes remain unchanged. The Barings Bank collapse remains one of the most extraordinary financial scandals in history. The building that once housed Barings Bank still stands in London, but the institution itself exists only in the history books and as a warning of how quickly empires can turn to dust. If you've enjoyed this video, then do hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and join my free investment newsletter that is pinned in the description. Thank you for listening, everyone.